It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the Danger Zone in Rainford is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Greetings, good sir.
How are we? We okay?
Yes, did have some issue before. Thought I broke my arm, even though I didn't actually do anything, but it's okay now.
What I'm glad is that you're now 40 years of age and you're still, a complete and utter klutz of the highest order. You don't grow out of klutz.
No, klutz is catching. But as I say, there is an NFL player who managed to, basically tear his meniscus by sitting awkwardly in a chair. So, Jeff Wilson, I think we should get shirts.
Yes, your spirit animal. Of that, there is no doubt. Neil, dark days of summer. However, 3 pieces of NFL news that we want to talk about. We have a weird world, and then Neil, much like most of your jokes, circa 2001 to 2008, you plagiarised something.
Yep, only this time I will be acknowledging it. For
those who aren't aware and didn't know, Neil, at one point he was plagiarising that much that I asked him to add footnotes to all jokes. So he used to tell a joke and then footnote it.
It was a bit like Richard Fish in Ally McBeal. He used to literally, whatever he said, would literally say at the end of it where he got it from.
Yep. It needed to be done,
such classics as, such classics as I come in peace, Buzz Lightyearism.
Yeah. Right, let's start, Neil, and let's get straight in with a weird world. Runaway giant tortoise found 1 mile from home after escaping garden. Is a great headline which jumped out at me straight away. When they phoned Mr. Richard Aston, he was out and had no idea his pet African tortoise was having such an odyssey. Mr. Aston told the BBC, yes, the British Broadcasting Corporation, there was no sign of the fence being broken and he can't jump over it. It's 3 feet high. Suffolk Police wrote on Twitter, thanks again to vigilant members of the public in locating the absconder 9-stone Titan was safely returned home. He was too large for the van cell, so had to have a travel wagon side. #slow justice. A giant tortoise was a mile away from his house and his owner didn't know he's escaped. When was the last time that the owner saw him? I am suggesting 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, because if, a giant tortoise, and as we know, tortoises or tortoise, whatever the plural is, they're not exactly known for being fleet of foot. So, this fella can put all the positive spin on it he wants about how he's happy that, tortoise is back and thanks to the vigilant one. You're mistreating your animal, sir, because, as you say, that's been missing for a while.
Titan weighs 9 stone, and reading further along in the story, it took 3 police officers to lift him up. That's not strong police people, right?
No, I'm just wondering then, if 9 stone, and, he must be quite long for a tortoise.
Well, he's giant.
So I'm just wondering, I presume, it'd be hard to, people can't see that, the arm gestures I'm doing here. I'm trying to
arm gestures that
I'm trying to cut an imaginary 9-stone tortoise. It's a sentence. It's a sentence I never thought I'd say. It's an action I never thought I'd do. Yet here we are.
Fantastic. I just imagine the idea of the guy doesn't know how he escaped. I'm suggesting a door, but it got a mile away and it's a tortoise. Let's be honest, it's not running away. So how many people will have seen, said tortoise and gone, it's a tortoise that. Just gonna let it go. Just alright, mate, tortoise there. Yeah. Probably just gone for a walk, so don't worry about it. It'll make its way back home. It knows the area.
It's one of those things, I suppose, that if you saw it, it would register as unusual. But then you remember the country we live in, the world we live in these days, and you're just like, to be honest, it's not causing any trouble. It's not breaking windows. It's not loitering. It's not engaging in any other ASBO behaviour. Let it go. It's only a tortoise.
You say that. It's probably trying to do some Marxist plot. Neil, before we move on to the NFL stories, I'm just going to let that go. We received a text from a friend of ours, a Sposty of the Tony variety, who sent us 15 times justice was actually served. Most of these are pretty old, but what I want to do is regularly come back to them because there's some absolute classics in here. My favourite one of this week that I'm going to share with everyone is city's officials in San Francisco are introducing the Karen Act, which stands for Caution Against Racially Exploited Non-Emergencies, to outlaw racially motivated 911 calls. Bravo, San Francisco. Tip of the cap to you to getting that into some kind of Karen format.
Yeah. People who come up with these laws and get them into a handy acronym are generally worth their weight in gold. So you really do have to appreciate the hard work that they've put in. So, hats off.
And hats off to Karens everywhere for being absolute dickheads.
Yes, you can speak to the manager.
I am the manager. If you have any other weird world stories that you would like me and Neil to share, please send them over to @waxing_lyrical or to Neil @n13 or to me @mainty7. We love reading them out, especially during this period of summer solstice that the NFL is going through. But I say that news is broke this week in regards to a player. We have, unfortunately, passing away, and we also have COVIDiots, so we will be talking about them right now. Neil, Julio Jones is now a Tennessee Titan. Before we get on to fantasy impacts, what were your initial thoughts when it went through?
I will always treasure that fortnight where we all thought AJ Brown was going to get 200 targets.
I feel like we should pour out a drink for those 200 targets.
It was a magical time. A time where one of those times in life where everything seemed possible. There were no boundaries. There were only opportunities.
Literally a week ago, we did the podcast, and one of our ADP WTS was, why is AJ Brown not wide receiver 1? Probably because everybody assumed Julio Jones was going to be on the roster.
It does give the Tennessee Titans a 3 on offense. We know they want to run the ball, so that makes Derrick Henry a fantasy option, obviously, because of volume. And also it means that A.J. Brown can't be double covered, and you can't double cover Julio. We saw last year that A.J. Brown was still exceptional from an efficiency point of view, with a wide receiver who got nearly 1,000 yards. Now, I don't know. Is a 4th year Corey Davis better than an 11th year Julio Jones at this stage of the game? I don't know. But we have seen that AJ Brown can still dominate with an effective and efficient receiver on the other side of the field. So I'm not too concerned for AJ Brown. Julio, it's a nice move for him, and clearly it's somewhere where he's going to be wanted, because AJ Brown couldn't have lobbied any harder for the Titans to go out and get him.
They are right now the walk off the bus champions of the NFL, because what's going to happen is they're going to open the door and Derrick Henry's going to come down the steps, then Julio Jones is going to come down the steps, then AJ Brown's going to come down the steps, and you're going to go, I don't want to be playing against any of these dudes. They're far too big, they're far too strong, they're far too powerful. This is no fun. You've looked at it, kind of initial thoughts from a Tennessee point of view, initial thoughts from an Atlanta point of view. I do think, imagine having to get rid of the greatest player in franchise history. Maybe Tony Gonzalez. I don't know.
Well, Gonzalez was there 4 years, wasn't he?
So Julio Jones is your greatest ever player. You have to get rid of him just so you can sign your draft picks. That's an issue. Yeah. And it leads me to wonder what the plan is. Like, if you were going to get rid of Julio Jones, why not also do something with Matt Ryan and do the full blow up? You seem to now be kind of a stuck in the middle team, unless you believe that by getting rid of Julio, Calvin Ridley gets more touches and the other touches go to Kyle Pitts.
You took a tight end with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. You then, we know how good a player he could be. Wonderful prospect, athletic freak, production, dominant college performer. He's a rookie tight end. You then trade away, as you say, a dominant wide receiver, the best player in franchise history. You're now banking on a rookie tight end hitting from day one. That's what it comes down to. You want Calvin Ridley to be Calvin Ridley, to be what he's been. Calvin Ridley's been very good with or without Julio, but you're expecting Kyle Pitts to fire from day one. Rookie tight end. You can't run the ball. Your defense is trash. You thought it was acceptable to not plan for the future and take a quarterback at 4 and took a tight end. And again, miss me out with the best prospect of all time. Miss me out with a rookie tight end. Okay? You took him instead of a quarterback and then decided that he was going to become an immediate focal point. Well done.
So we assume that it impacts AJ Brown. What do you see the projection for Julio in Tennessee? What's his kind of number projection are we expecting?
Well, it's a tough one to say because we know that they want to run the ball. Now, whether one thing that does help Julio, and it helps AJ Brown as well, and slightly hurts Derrick Henry, is their defense is utter trash. So while they're going to want to run the ball, and from the run they're going to get the play action, if they're down in late in the 3rd, early 4th quarter, well, you can't run play action. You're down 10. You're going to have to drop back and pass it. So that's going to open up more opportunities for Julio and for AJ Brown. Unless AJ Brown gets injured, Julio is the second fiddle in this orchestra. But as I say, we saw how much work Corey Davis got last year. Julio should still see 100 odd targets, take more, depending on how bad their defense is. And plus, if Derrick Henry, assuming he is human, starts to show the effects of nearly 800 carries over the last 2 years. So, from a fantasy head on it, he's someone who probably should be considered as a wide receiver 2 at this stage of the game, whereas AJ Brown, as I say, you're drafting him near the top of the draft for a reason. He's very, very good. I don't see that changing. It's just, I don't think AJ Brown is going to be the wide receiver 1 anymore because he does have this slight cap that Julio provides, but I'm not worried about either of them, to be honest.
Does this make Calvin Ridley one of the top wide receivers to go for in fantasy drafts? I am always higher on Calvin Ridley than you. That is undoubtable and known commodity in this scenario, but where does this move up Calvin Ridley considerably, given that now he is undoubtedly the number 1 wide receiver in Atlanta?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, an awful lot of his production, let's say, does come from deep shots and touchdowns. So he's not really been like a volume receiver. So I don't think there's going to be many games where you're going to see him with 10 receptions for 140 yards where he doesn't have a touchdown. I have difficulty putting him up there with Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown. But he'd certainly be in that second tier for me because, as I say, Atlanta are going to have to throw the ball. And Ryan to Ridley, it's a good partnership. It has worked. But I'd be stunned if Calvin Ridley was the wide receiver 1 at the end of the season. I think he will be a wide receiver 1. I just don't think he'll be sitting atop the pile at the end when all is said and done.
Okay, Neil, let's move on. Sad news in the NFL this week. Former NFL head coach of the New York Football Giants, Jim Fossil, died aged 71. We found out from his son, who's a special teams coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Neil, what do you remember about Fossil as a head coach or a coach in general in the NFL?
Well, he was the losing head coach of the first Super Bowl I ever watched. the New York Giants, and I remember him putting his chips in the table, going all in and saying that this team will make the playoffs with about 6 weeks to go when they were teetering. He was a very good offensive coach, had a good record with the Giants, just went a bit downhill the last couple of seasons. It was a shame because he went to Baltimore because he was good friends with Brian Billick. And basically, I think Billick was hoping that he'd be able to fix or at least fine-tune Kyle Boller, because he was like a special consultant. But then after the first season of 2004, Matt Cavanaugh was, much to the relief of many associated with the Ravens, went, I think, to Pitt. So then Fassel became the offensive coordinator. But then, as will most offensive coaches will want to do, when the offense struggled, Billick took the play calling back, and I think they fell out a bit. I don't think it was like a blood feud or anything. But yeah, he was a good offensive coach. And I just think it's just a shame that, I'm not saying the game passed him by. He was just one of those people that seemed to just drop out of the league after a while. I mean, we know that when coaches get fired, head coaches become coordinators become position coaches, and position coaches become high school coaches. It's the way it goes. He just seemed to. I mean, he did go. I think it was the Atlantic Football League or something.
He played. So he was drafted in 1972 as a quarterback by the Chicago Bears and played briefly for them and in the World Football League. I think he did. Wasn't he? Coach was he USFL? Was he
UFL? UFL. He was coach out in Vegas. It's very sad. I mean, I didn't realize he was that old. But then you realise, well, he was in the NFL 20 years ago. So
yeah, exactly.
Yep. Very sad.
He is the fourth winningest coach in Giants football history. 58, 53, and 1. So only Steve Owen, Tom Coughlin, and Bill Parcells have won more. He obviously took them to a Super Bowl. He had a winning record. I don't have when I remember him as a Giants head coach, I don't remember him being like an elite coach. I don't think he was ever recognised as that, but he was seen as an offensive guy who had some very good offensive experts, and he worked for the Giants as an offensive coordinator in 91, 92. He was a coordinator with the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Cardinals before he took over from Dan Reeves with the Giants. So they'd missed the playoffs 5 out the last 6 seasons. First season they were 10-5-1. So yeah, a good head coach. It seems like a really nice guy. And we hope his family and people who know him are okay in this difficult time.
And as I say, he did go to the Super Bowl with a team that was teetering towards the back end of the season, with Kerry Collins at quarterback. Not Fassel's fault that Collins put in one of the worst quarterbacking performances in any game at any level ever. But he was playing the 2000 Ravens, so I think we can allow him some small...
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, it was bad, but yeah, he was also playing the 2000 Ravens. A final thing, Neil, before we get onto your game or conversation for the night, and that is COVID vaccinations. Obviously, players are starting to be in mini camps and starting to be asked questions, and some of them are giving some answers. Okay, everyone has the right to an opinion and their own set of beliefs. I'm allowed to mock them because that's how the world works. So I believe if you believe that you don't want the vaccine, that you're a moron. Now, you may have other reasons for it because, you don't want to be turned into a 5G radar post, or you don't want to be magnetic. First of all, I've got a phone, so I'm fine. And if I was magnetic, that'd be cool because then I'd be an X-Men. But let's not talk about that part of the situation. I'm more interested, Neil, in do you believe or will you change your draft strategy in fantasy based on some of the noises you're hearing around certain players / teams, COVID vaccination decisions?
It's not something that would dictate my draft board, but I think if you're breaking ties and you really are struggling, it's something you have to consider. Because we did see last year there were teams that had outbreaks and players missed time. We would hope that everything's getting better, that teams are going to be a bit more robust in their protocols, and that obviously, hopefully, as many people as possible get vaccinated.
Correct. I
think if it's a play, as I say, you're going to have to go late in the draft before you start looking at someone and say, okay, I need this position. It's fairly even with but he thinks that if he walks around, he's going to be able to attract metal. So, yeah, I'd rather have him because I don't want to root for stupid.
I always look at it in a kind of... Last year, a lot of people, although leagues tried to deal with it as best they can, let's be honest, were screwed over by COVID cancellations and movements and changing of games and what have you. And if you've got a team... Maybe not individual players, but if you've got a team who have less COVID people vaccinated than you would like, then I do wonder if I think, is that team more likely to have a COVID outbreak and miss the game? And does that impact the way I'm thinking? Right now, 10th of June, I'm not 100% sure, but if we get more noise about it, I do think it'll be something that I will consider.
All we can say is, if a team brings in experts to talk to their players about vaccination, and you say, I don't know, I haven't heard all the facts yet, you're an idiot. The team is doing everything it can. You're an idiot. Who do you want to speak to? As I say, Janet from Facebook?
Yeah. Well, I think they want to speak to God himself, right?
Yeah.
And he ain't speaking.
I do not know what more the team can do to protect you from yourself.
Correct, Neil. Neil, that's it for the NFL part. But Neil, you've got an exciting game to tell us, so let's go to it.
Well, anyone who listens to the Off Menu podcast with Ed Gamble and James Acaster will know the idea I'm about to steal. What they do is they have celebrities, other comedians. They've had a few personality types, but it's mostly people associated with comedy, music and whatnot, and they ask them for their dream starter, main course, side dish, dessert, drink. So I thought, as we're into, the NFL dead zone, the dead period, I thought it'd be interesting to see what we choose, as a two. Now, this is not necessarily your last meal. It's your dream meal. If this is what you wanted to pick on death row, by all means. But that's not necessarily where we're coming from.
Okay.
So.
That's good. I think we're about to find out, just so we know. In case you didn't know, I'm a pretentious prick.
Yep.
Okay. As long as we everyone knew that, it's about to be nailed on, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think we're just reinforcing
correct.
The opinion. So, start off. Water. Still, sparkling, or tap?
It's still, and it's got to be basically ice cold. I would expect the bottle to have ice on it.
Okay, I agree. I'm not... Sparkling water for me is...
It's a no-no for me. It's a no for me. Yeah, I don't like fizzy. Don't drink that many fizzy drinks. I don't want fizzy water.
I just don't like the taste.
No.
It's and water, let's be honest, it's fairly tasteless. So if you say, I don't like the taste of that water, well, you've done something to it.
Correct. Okay,
next one is poppadoms or bread.
Okay, so for those who know me and for those who don't, one place I go to regularly is Florida. I've maybe been 7 or 8 times in my life. The last time we went, we stayed off Disney Universal, but on one of the main strips. And driving past, there was a place called Manny's Chop House, which was either going to be food or a place where people died in some kind of horror movie, or both. In Manny's Chop House, they serve a warmed cinnamon roll with butter before you get your meal. They also give you an unlimited salad because that's how Yanks roll. These bread things are unbelievable and should accompany every meal ever, and that would be the bread that I would do.
Do you have it buttered or just...
Yeah, butter. Open it, butter it, cinnamon, unbelievable. You're in. What a winner.
See, I think I personally would just go with poppadoms because you know what I'm like. I love bread. I could certainly eat bread all day. Yeah. And I think that this concept would be, if I was to ask for bread, I'd just keep eating it and I'd get full on it and I'd ruin the rest of the meal for myself. Mm-hmm. Whereas, just I can satisfy myself with 2, maybe 3. Poppadoms with some nice raita, some nice mango chutney. Yeah. Not chili, as some chili dip that I have had from various places. Jesus wept. It's like, you don't need to blow my brains out with the poppadoms. That was...
Correct.
Okay. Starter.
So, for those who know, I'm self-employed, so therefore can have my own Christmas meals. One year I took me and my non-executive director, my wife, to our Christmas meal at the Berkeley in London, which is Marcus Waring's Michelin star restaurant. You get a taster menu, and one of the things was called, this is what it's called, pumpkin multiple ways. And when you look at a menu and you're like, okay, I like that. Pumpkin multiple ways, that'll be whatever, but I'll try it. It's got a roulette, it's got a bit of soup, it's got I can't remember, the sauteed, some of it, you're like, all right, yeah, but where's the meat? Like, there's no meat on that one, but there is on the next 3, damn fine, yeah. This thing was unbelievable. Like, I literally can't think of anything else. When I said to Kate that we were doing this concept, she said, you don't forget to put that pumpkin thing as the starter, because it's unbelievable. So it's basically this pumpkin in 6 different ways, and each one was more spectacular than the next in like little small amuse-bouche type ways. Fantastic. Pumpkin multiple ways from Marcus at the Berkeley Hotel in central London.
See, it's called pumpkin multiple ways. I would wager there is one more way that pumpkin should be had, and that's in the bin, as pumpkin is foul.
No, but Neil, this is what I'm saying to you, yeah. See, this is why we differ, because you would never try it, so that's a problem. I looked at it and went, I won't like this. It was unbelievable. And that's why, because I worked away a lot and ate in multiple different places, what I learned was never have the same thing twice. So I've tried loads of things where I was like, I'm not going to like this. And sometimes you didn't like it, but you know what? Someone else was paying.
Yeah, I suppose that's it with a taster menu as well. There's you're going to get something else. Whereas if it was just, okay, what starter do you want? I can pick what. I don't want pumpkin. No, I'm not.
I'm only picking that because I know what it tastes like, right? If it's on a menu, I'm like, I'm not having it. But there you go. I had it and it was amazing. What was your starter, Neil?
My starter would be, I went to, I think it was called Meat. It was an Argentinian restaurant in Liverpool quite some time ago. I think it was 2006.
Are we talking the Dale Street end? Towards the Liver building? Yes, okay.
Just by the Strand.
Yes.
Down towards the Strand.
Yes, fantastic, yeah.
And I had these chorizo bites.
I know what you're talking about. With
like a garlic mayo dip. And literally, I did ask them, can you not just do that in an entree size? And I just had that again. And they looked at me like I was weird.
Well, yeah, because they did 74 different types of steak. So they're like, I understand that this is amazing meat, but it's time to eat the real animal now. Yeah.
I mean, I'd never had chorizo before. So I had to ask someone what it was. They said, it's a spicy sausage. I was like, oh, sausage? You have made sausage? So yeah, I would have that. I say as long as it came with the dip.
Yeah.
It certainly did by itself, but it just the garlic mayo just took a little bit of the edge off, and yeah, that did it for that moved me in a way that no sausage had before.
We did all week trying to veal.
Right, your main?
So, my main... so, about 7 years ago... No, it wasn't that long. No, sorry. About 5 or 6 years ago, I went on holiday to where I believed I was going to, was Sorrento. Okay? I'd booked a hotel with a company and I'd said that side of, that Naples side of city, found somewhere, thermal spas, all natural hotel on the top of a hill. And I'm like, okay, sound. So you land in Naples, and he said, then I knew it was a drive. It's okay, yeah, fine. It's all like transfers are all sorted. So get on the taxi. The taxi drives for like 5 minutes and says, "Oh, you need to get on the ferry now." I'm like, thought Sorrento was just a drive around the coast. Okay, whatever. Maybe I'm cutting a corner. I'm thinking to myself, it's 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, whatever. Get on the ferry. Hour. Some other taxi picks us up the hill, hotel, check in, bingo. Long story short, I was in an island, an hour off the mainland of Italy called Ischia. Fantastic place, wonderful, but just not where I thought I'd booked. Hilarious, but looked out. One night while we were there, there was swordfish on the menu. I thought, I've never had swordfish before. Let's have swordfish. The guy brings it out to you, still intact, and cuts it in front of you. Basically, they've caught it off the island, cooked it as one thing, brought it to you, chopped it up, skinned it, boned it, while you're looking, and give it to you. Grazie a te, mate. Ischia Hotel, swordfish.
Serving it in front of you it's a good idea. I say part of the experience, but I think with something like fish, I'm more happy to just say, no, I'll take your word for it that it's cooked, mate. Just bring it to me on the plate. I don't need to see you skinning an animal for me. I feel, the guilt that I'm supposed to feel nowadays eating meat. Yeah, I already feel it, mate. I don't need to be... It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't need to be introduced to the cow before I eat it. Just you go away. I've read the description. Sounds nice. You piss off. Come back with the plate. I'll eat it. We can get on with our lives.
Main meal for you, Neil?
Main meal for me. When I was in Chicago back in 2008, leading into 2009, we went to a restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. And it was the unlimited salad bar. Piss off. Do I look interested, mate? I'm here for your meat. And I had a filet mignon, which is probably the most pretentious thing I've ever eaten. But my God, it was a very busy restaurant. And I, had to ask everyone in there to leave so I could be alone with this filet mignon. It was incredible. And I thought, well, it's a steak, so they're going to ask me how I want it. No, this fella said,
it's none of your business, mate. We cook it, you eat it.
Yeah, that's it. You're not involved in the transaction, mate. It was gorgeous. It was so nice. And my biggest regret is that I didn't get another one.
Yeah, correct.
That's the only... I have many regrets, but my biggest regret was that as we were leaving for an evening on the to visit some local hostelries, I didn't ask for another one to help me on the way.
Yeah, just have it in a sandwich while you're walking or something.
Yeah. It's like, hey, mate, give us another one of them, and have you got 2 slices of Warburtons?
Yeah, because I'm sure dude in Chicago knows what Warburtons is.
Yeah. Right, side.
I struggle with this one. I've gone for... I went to Tom Kerridge's restaurant, the Hand and Flower in Marlow. It's like a gastro pub. And he did hand and flour chips, which is kind of like cooked 3 different ways in 3 different times in duck fat. That was epic. So I went for Tom Kerridge's hand and flour chips.
I had an honourable mention, and my honourable mention would be, and this probably will surprise you. I went to a pub in the Lakes a few years ago, and I had mashed potato as one of the sides. It was the creamiest mash I've ever had in my life. It was. I can't eat potato dry. I have to have something runnier than potato to dip it in.
It's because you're Northern, Neil, and that's an accurate statement, as should everyone. Anyone who doesn't do that is weird.
This was so creamy, though. It was almost liquid itself. And I don't mean liquid as in, oh, that's horrible. This was like, but it did taste good with the beef gravy they gave you. However, I'm not going to have that. What I am going to have is a plate of chips from Hale's Chippy in Ormskirk.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
Because...
Extra vinegar?
Yeah. Basically, cone of vinegar, please. Throw some chips in while we're here. Never a bad portion of chips have I had from that chippy. Going back 30 years.
Does that chippy still
whether
exist?
It's a cone,
does it still exist?
It's called Stafford's now.
But is it still the same chip?
Still
concept?
The same chip, still the same deal. It's obviously the philosophy has been passed down.
That's what I'm saying,
to
right?
Another. The weirdest thing, of course, about Hales is that it never used to open at lunchtime.
Yeah, it's weird that. That's like, I remember there was the one at Old Drone, the Olympic at Old Drone, did the greatest gravy of all time, kind of almost tar, and then it changed, and I moved away and came back, and I got some, and the gravy was like water, and I was like, no, you're a chippy in this location, this should be tar gravy, and it's not. Can I have my money back? Anyway.
Yeah, it should have been the recipe should have been handed to you in the deeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, pudding or dessert, if we're going to be pretentious?
Mine is from a place called Gelateria Primavera on the main street in Sorrento.
I thought it was on Scotty Road.
You know it's a good ice cream bar when you see pictures of famous people with the dude who owns said restaurant or said ice cream parlour, I guess it is. So we're talking every imaginable Italian footballer you would care to name of the past 30 years. Famous actors, actresses. Pierce Brosnan was one. Diego Armando Maradona, Roberto Baggio, Mario Balotelli, Alessandro Del Piero, Paolo Maldini, and I would get a mint and strawberry 2-scoop waffle cone and be happy with my choice. But in theory, they had 50 different flavours of ice cream, and I doubt you could go wrong with it, many of them, apart from like banana maybe.
I always think banana is one of those things that a good banana product, like whether it's ice cream or banoffee, is outstanding. But bad banana product is awful. It's like the lamb of fruit.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So yeah, that place is a fantastic ice cream parlour and it should be utilised more often. Speak to Kale and Green for details.
Well, they're people whose opinions I do trust when it comes to ice cream.
Correct.
It was in the company of those where I had my pudding, and again, it's in Chicago. It was a cheesecake, and it was a salted caramel cheesecake.
Okay.
Now, obviously, it was in America, so it was a bloody big portion.
It was basically a cake.
Essentially, yeah. It was the first time I'd ever heard the phrase salted caramel. And at first I thought, why are we putting salt in it? My salt levels are dangerously high. It's just caramel. I'm just happy with this. What can I have it? It was an eye-opener, and no mistake. And it was one of those that I really, really wish I'd had squirty cream with it, just to really lower the tone. But it was just fantastic. What are we having to drink?
So I believe, although we don't know what each other said here, but I believe we should be having the same thing. Okay. But I believe we're not having the same thing, and that makes me question our friendship, because I believe that we should be having a Fru Kolsch from the Fru Brewery in Cologne outside in the sun, because that's the best drink of alcoholic variety that anyone can have in a thirst-quenching, alcohol-based, hot day drinking concept. I do have a non-alcoholic version, which is a strawberry lemonade from the Obalu Helengeli in the Maldives. But yeah, my first thing that came to my mind was a Kolsch from the Fru Brewery in Cologne.
Well, so's mine.
Because it should be, because in theory there's no other thing. So for those who are unaware, and for those who don't know us, we've been to multiple German cities with our friends. That's what we do. We've been to Dusseldorf, we've been to Berlin, we've been to Munich, we've been to Cologne, we've been to Dusseldorf. We've also been to Belgium cities such as Ghent. I didn't go to that one. Antwerp, Brussels, and of all of them, all fantastic cities. I think the best quote-unquote party city in terms of atmosphere, not in terms of like not 1830s Blackpool, Magaluf bullshit, but like the best atmosphere, the best place was Cologne, and they do a concept of a small beer, only 300 ml, it's called Kolsch, which is its own, and it's only allowed to be called Kolsch if it's brewed in Cologne, and it's fantastic. And for those who are seeing news at the moment that the NFL is thinking of going to Germany for an NFL game, I would have your fingers crossed for Cologne. Yeah,
as you say, there are 4 types of Kolsch. Run the check with me. There was Fru, which is the king of Kolsch. Dom,
which is based on the cathedral that's in the city.
And what were the other 2?
I knew you were going to do this.
Yeah. See, the good thing, I think it was Dom that was literally on the waterfront, and say a very, very pleasant day spent in the sunshine enjoying copious amounts of Dom. But Fru is a crisper taste. And the good thing, of course, I say about having it 300 millilitres is that it's cold and it doesn't have time to go warm as long as you're drinking at an appropriate speed. And because it's in Germany and it's proper beer, there's no junk in it. So even if you can spend all day drinking the stuff, and it's only the pure volume and the fact that you didn't eat enough, that's what gets you ill the next day. It's not the beer.
So there's Dom, there's Fru, as we've said, there's Gaffel, there's Reisdorf, and there's Verbund. So there's 5.
5, yeah. Waffel was the one I think that would be Fru, Dom, Waffel.
Yeah. We visited all the main breweries, but they're all like Dom and Fru are basically opposite each other. They're 2 minutes walk. So,
pretty much, yeah.
Do you have a non-alcoholic drink, Neil, or was that just
Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, of course. From anywhere?
It would have to be a can.
Yeah.
So
does that mean it's got to be from the Shell garage in McGull?
Got to be from the Shell, yeah. Because 500 milliliter bottle goes flat too quickly. 2 litre bottle is flat straight away. Never. The only place I've ever had it on tap was in McDonald's in Florida, and that was the first time I encountered the joys of unlimited refill, which is partly why I thought, well, my dad's already paid for it. I'm going for it. So yeah, if it was, you'll have to wait for your beers. What do you want? I'll take a Dr. Pepper, because I don't drink it anymore. Because I only drink I only drink Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. But if I was going to treat myself, which you would assume a dream restaurant would be something of a treat, I'll go with the DP.
Fantastic, Neil. Is that all the things that you wanted us to go through in relation to our menu? Should we recap? I was having still water, ice cold. My bread was, I chose bread, cinnamon rolls from Manny's Chop House. I chose pumpkin multiple ways from the Berkeley Marcus Waring's restaurant. I chose swordfish from the Grazia Terme in Ischia. I chose hand and flour chips from Tom Kerridge's restaurant, the Hand and Flour. I chose a mint and strawberry ice cream waffle cone from Gelateria Primavera in Sorrento, and I would wash that all down with a glass of Fru from the from their brewery in Colne.
And I went with Stillwater, Poppadoms, and I would say Poppadoms from the Mayo, which has now been renamed in Liverpool. I can't remember what the new one is, not been yet. I would have Chorizo from Meat. I would have Filet Mignon from the place I can't remember in Chicago. On the side, I would have a plate of Hale's chips, or Stafford's chips, or whatever you are. And I too will be joining you in the intake of Frew, because it's just the king of Pilsner. It
is, Neil. That's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed our little venture into a non-NFL story, but we thought we would indulge ourselves while we have some free time on the NFL. Neil, anything you would like people to read or catch up on before they speak to us, before we speak to them again?
No, only encourage you to visit Player Profiler and buy the world famous draft kit. It's getting very good reviews, so the Podfather tells me. And it's a living document. It will be updated. There are rankings. There are the cheat sheet. It will be updated as we get more and more information. So if players move teams, if they're injured, if they're cut, if they're released, these rankings will update. So don't just go in, download your cheat sheet today for your draft in August, because believe me, it will look very, very different. So Player Profiler, world famous draft kit. Go out and buy it. Go
on. Neil is at Ben13. I am at Mandy7. Combined, we are at Waxing Lyrical. We're now going to go away and cry ourselves to sleep thinking about the fact we can't get any of those foods we've just talked about. Until later, these top guys are out.